It's opening weekend at Saratoga, and the Saturday card features three graded stakes races highlighted by the Grade 1 Diana. Let's see if we can find some picks and plays to come out on top in our first weekend at Saratoga. Hey, welcome in. My name is Tim, and you can find me on Horse Racing X at Riders Up Tim. Welcome to the Trust the Profits channel. Make sure that you like this video and consider subscribing. We've got lots of great content coming out this week as we start off the Saratoga meet. So this first weekend, great card on Saturday, three graded stakes, as I mentioned. So with that, let's jump right in. We're going to start out with race 2. This is the Grade 3 Kelo Stakes on the turf, 8 furlongs for 4-year-olds and up for a purse of $175,000. Let me start off by saying that, yes, I know on Thursday we were rained off the turf, but looking at the forecast and everything, I am going to handicap the card and put out my picks as if we're going to stay on the turf for Saturday, as it looks like that will be the case. So starting out in here, I'm going to go to the 2 Mysterious Night for Charlie Appleby. Flavien Prat getting on board this horse. When you look at the Grade 3 poker back in June at the Belmont at Saratoga meet that they had the 1 week. So this horse gets a race over the Saratoga surface. And now here we are getting an opportunity to run back. If you can't bring in Billy Buick, Flavien Prat, are you kidding me, on the turf? I would rather have no other jockey in North America. In my opinion, a lot of people talk about who's the best jockey in America, but in turf, to me, there is no argument. It's Flavien Prat. So Flavien Prat getting up for Charlie Appleby. Most people look at Appleby horses and be like, Appleby shipping in. No, no, no. Godolphin Stables has bought a farm just down the road from Saratoga, and they are actually basing horses here in the United States, and Charlie Appleby is going to be running horses based here in the United States going forward. So they're not always going to be shippers. And when you talk about shipping, this horse shipped in for that first race. That was a really good race, but that horse ran behind the eventual winner in there. Ice Chocolat in that race in the poker was on the lead for most of that race. Talk of the Nation with Irad getting up, who is in this race as well. We'll talk about in a minute, was running a good second place. Mysterious Night was down on the inside rail. Basically, when he got an opportunity and was able to get clear and get to the outside, go back and watch that race. Watch the acceleration. Watch how Mysterious Night went from third to second in the blink of an eye. In this race, I think this horse is much the best, and I'm going to play him on top. Talk about Talk of the Nation. That's the 4 horse in here for Todd Pletcher. Irad getting back on board. This horse is going to be third off a layoff in here, coming out of that same race. As I mentioned, this horse to me had no excuses in the last. To me, Mysterious Night just outran him. But when I look at the rest of this field, I think these two are a standout. That's why if you look at my play in here, I'm going to play a straight exacta 2 with the 4. Going to race 10. This is the Grade 1 Diana Stakes. And this is a on the turf, 9 furlongs for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up for a purse of $500,000. And when you look at this field, let me just say, wow. I mean, top to bottom, this is an incredible field. Really a lot of great horses in here. Moira coming back, Didia, Mission of Joy, Gina Romantica, White Beam, who won this race last year. Nisi Marie coming out of a great race. So top to bottom, Chili Flag, who's been one of the hottest horses in this division so far this year. But when you talk about top to bottom, I think this is a great Grade 1 Diana opening weekend. Highlight race for Saratoga. Yes, please. Give me some of that. Give me lots of this. But I'm going to go to the 4, Didia. For Ignacio Correas, Jose Ortiz, getting up on this one. Third off a layoff. If you look at that last race, go back and watch the New York. That horse, when Jose asked this horse for a little bit, just accelerated. Jose didn't touch the horse, mildly urged, and just took off. much the best in the New York, and I think is going to be much the best in here. Yes, 5 Chad Browns. I get it. Chad Brown has a great record in the Diana. I get it. But I'm going to tell you, I think that the New York was a much better race than the Just a Game. And speaking of that, if you look at the horse that finished behind Didier in the New York Stakes, that was the 8 horse in here, Nisi Marie. Go back and watch that race. Watch the New York Stakes. Watch how this horse was so far back in the early going, came up the rail, moved, was behind horses, moved from inside to outside, and just accelerated when this horse finally got a little bit of space. Yes, I think Didier is much the best in here. And based on that, that performance by Nisi Marie, to me, was much better than anybody coming out of the Just a Game. But when you look at the Just a Game, there are a couple of horses that I'm going to play in here. And to me, the best of the Chad Brown entries is Coppice. When you look at what Chad Brown does, bringing back a horse who was a beaten favorite in that horse's previous race, he has a great record with that. And if I'm going to look at all of those, if you look at the Just a Game, only one horse was the favorite, and that was Coppice. So getting Frankie Dettori up for Chad Brown, if you look 2 back, that first race coming into the United States at Churchill Downs, beaten by Chili Flag in there just by a neck, then came back in that Just a Game. When you look at this horse in the stretch, he had absolutely no room. He had absolutely nowhere to go, and to me had lots of excuse. So I think that the only reason that this horse was 6th in that race, but again, that's only by 2 lengths, you could throw a blanket over him, was because of the trip. I think the horse gets a better trip in here and has a great chance at finishing underneath my top 2 plays. I'm going to go outside for my next horse I'm going to talk about, and that's the 10 Chili Flag. This horse is doing nothing wrong. Goes for 4 in a row in here. Has proven best against several of these. But if you go back to the last time this horse lost, who was that? Didier. So I think Didier does it again. I'm going to take this horse on an underneath play only. So my plays in here are going to be, I'm going to play an exacta, and this is straight up 4 with the 8. And I'm going to play a trifecta 4 with the 8, with the 2 and the 10. Moving on to the next race is race 11, the grade 3 Sanford Stakes. This is a race on the dirt for 6 furlongs, 2-year-olds for a purse of $175,000. All the talk in here is going to be the number 1 horse, Mentee. I'm going to tell you why we're going to beat that horse. We're going to beat the chalk. We're going to beat the 6-5 favorite for Todd Pletcher and Johnny Velasquez. And the reason is this. The horse, 5 furlongs, everybody's going to go back and tell you, well, the horse broke a 5 furlong record. Yeah, broke a record going 5 furlongs and barely won. Just beat out Colloquial in that race by a nose. So Colloquial almost got the track record in there as well. Now the horse is going to add an additional furlong. I don't like it. Not only that, but if you look at Mentee in that race, Mentee was in the 7 hole of 7 horses. For a 2-year-old, for a young horse, being on the outside is a distinct advantage. That way they can see everything going on. They don't have to worry about all the traffic. A young horse can be out there a little bit on their own, get into themselves and run. That is why I think another horse I'm going to talk about in a moment, it has a better opportunity than that. But first, let's talk about the 6, Studley Do Right. This is a horse. When I watched this race, and I watched the Tremont several times, another horse that had the benefit based on the Belmont meet being at Saratoga, has a race over the track. So this horse is 2 for 2 coming back. If you look at that race, broke in slightly. The running line says the horse bobbled at the start. It's barely a bobble. I don't think it affected the horse at all. I don't think it's why the horse took back. But here's the thing. In a 5.5 sprint, the horse is 11 furlongs back. 11 furlongs and finishes first. Incredible finish. Was absolutely flying. I don't think the horse has any trouble in here, is going to benefit. The third race, the horse is clearly on the improve, goes from a 61 speed figure to an 82 buyer, clearly on the improve here. I think improves again. And I like this horse a lot to finish out on top. When we look at horses underneath that one, I'm going to go first to the 5-3 Echoes. For Steve Asmussen, this is another horse coming out of the same race. Gets Flavian Pratt aboard. I like the connections in here. When you look at that race again, this is a horse who was right there in second, held position, only dropped the position because of Studley Do Right finishing so strongly. I think is going to like the stretch out again. So third time out, look for a big improvement. And I think this horse can be a part of the exacta. There was little separation for me. I kept going back and forth between two horses that I wanted to play underneath in the exacta. So I'm going to play them both. I'm going to play both of those horses. And the other horse in here is the 8 Moplex. Moplex is a horse a lot of people may gravitate towards in this race. I know Morning Line is 6-1 in here. Minty is clearly going to take all the money. But remember, I talked about Minty being on the outside. Well, that's what Moplex had as well. This horse was in a 7-horse race, broke from the 7-ho. Irad was able to take this horse on the outside. But here's the thing. That was a New York state bred race. And I just don't think that horse had the race against those horses that he's going to be facing in here. And a lot of people talk about, well, who the horse beat and who the horse beat. Here's the thing for me. It's not about so much who the horse beat. It's in beating those horses, how well did the horse run? How do the speed figures and how does a race match up against other horses? So not only do you question in here who the horse beat, but I question the speed figures, because to me, this horse is a little bit below. You could say that being so far out that the horse wasn't pushed, and he clearly wasn't, but I just think he would have to step up quite a bit to match the performance of Studley Do Right, who is now 2 for 2 in what this horse did. I do still think that the horse has the potential to get underneath, but I like Studley Do Right that much on the front end. And then I'm still going to play, if I'm looking at trifectas, which I think we're going to in here. I looked at everybody else in the race, and I think these 3 horses with Minty, those 4 stand out above everybody else. So I'm going to play a couple of different plays in here. I'm going to play an exacta 6 with the 5-8, and I'm going to play a trifecta 6 with the 5-8 with the 1. I'm going to back up here to race 9 for a moment. I'm going to tell you why here in a second. But as I go through a card, I'm looking for places. I'm typically a vertical player, as you've all seen, but I look for places where I have some strong opinions to where maybe I could play some horizontals. And I think that this late sequence, the late pick 4 from race 9 to race 12, is one of those sequences to where I'm looking to play a pick 4. So when I look at race 9 here, this is a race where I have another strong opinion, and I think that we have a horse that to me is a standout, and that is in here. That's the 8 horse, Irish Aces. When I look at this horse, I think that the horse in that Arlington Grade 3, if you look at that race at Churchill Downs, that was a grade horse, got a 95 speed figure, was second throughout, and just barely faded in the stretch. First time off a layoff, being off since March. Now comes back. Brendan Walsh gets Tyler Gaffleone up. If you know anything about these 2 connections, Brendan Walsh has said in the past, if he could ride one jockey on every horse in every race that he would do, it would be Tyler Gaffleone. These 2, when they hooked up earlier at Saratoga in the 1-week meet, they finished at a 29% rate. For the year, they're 21%. You cannot deny the connections. And when you look at this horse and the speed figures and everybody else in the race, I think the horse is a standout. As I looked at the rest of this field, though, and tried to find somebody who was better than the 8, the thing that stood out to me is that not only is the 8 a standout, I think we can get a price underneath. I think most of the horses are going to be a decent price underneath in here, and I think we can find a price underneath. So I'm going to try to play some exactas with 3 horses at double-digit odds, and I'm going to start that out with the 1 Tidal Forces. This horse is part of an entry, but this is a horse that I like. I like Tidal Forces. I'm going to throw out that last race in the slop, and when I look at this horse, he had a couple of turf races before that. And now if you look at those two, I think the horse just fits in here, coming back, has decent connections in here, getting Javier Castellano. I think this horse probably wants to be close to the lead. And this is a jockey who can definitely put in there. I look at that 7 July work, that bullet work, 47-3 here at Saratoga on the training track. That's monster fast for 10-1 odds. I'll take some of that underneath. Then I'm going to go to the 4 Magical Ways for Rudy Rodriguez, getting Flavien Prat up. I've already told you my opinion about him, how I think he's one of the best turf jockeys in America. I love him in here. I think this is jockey upgrade. This is the 3rd time the horse is getting on the turf. He's got 1 3rd place finish last out, closing up well. Back-to-back 89 speed figures. I think that the horse can definitely factor in here underneath. For my 3rd horse that I'm going to play underneath, the horse I like a lot, that I'm going to go to the 10, Taking Candy. This is a horse for Cherie DeVaux, getting Jose Lescano up. Look, Cherie DeVaux is as hot as anybody in the country. If you look at her barn across all the tracks, across everything she's racing, she is really doing well lately. And if you look at Lescano at Saratoga, he has a history of bringing in horses that are going to hit the board at a big price. So I don't think you can leave him out. Yes, this horse is coming off a long layoff, but has a solid pattern of workouts that tell me, and when I look at the workouts, they're all solid, every one of them, regular pattern. I think that this horse has the potential to hit the exacta at a big price. So again, I love the 8 on top. I think it's a standout. I'm going to play an exacta 8 with the 1 4 10. And then here's where my horizontal, why we backed up to the 9, comes into play. I'm going to play a pick 4 here. I'm going to take the 8 Irish Aces. I'm going to go to the 4 Didia in the very next race. Then in the 10th race, I am going to, in the 11th race in the Sanford, I'm going to take my horses 3 Echoes and Studley Do Right with Mo Plex. And then I'm going to finish up, even though we didn't talk about that race, all of those other horses we've talked about. I'm going to finish up in the last race with the 2, the 5, and the 6. So that's a pick 4 of 8 with 4, with 5, 6, 8, with 2, 5, and 6. There you have it. Those are my plays for the Saratoga Saturday opening card. Great card, top to bottom. Lots of great racing going on. 3 stakes races, 3 graded stakes races. The grade 1 Diana with an incredible field. I think we have an opportunity to get some horses home in here. Let me know what you think. Tell me who you like in those 3 graded stakes. Tell me if you agree with my opinions or you don't. That's okay if you don't. I'm not telling you what you should play. I'm telling you what I'm going to play. And hopefully something I've said may help you make your choices, whether it's to include a horse I added or to omit a horse. Either way, best of luck to you. I hope that all your plays are winning plays. Now, the only thing left for us to do is to wait for Saturday and that first call of Riders Up.